Hello and welcome. I am your host, Domenico DeCastro, and you are tuning into the What's in Your Case podcast. Our guest today walks a non-traditional route through life. Someone who recognizes their spirit's individual needs and is living a lifestyle that honors them. Wearing different hats, artist, an actor, a director, musician, and many more. My guest today is the artist Frankie McCabe.
Hello, thank you. Wonderful introduction.
One interesting thing that I read was that you attributed your progress into prog rock from Guitar Hero.
So when I was up in Seattle and we played with Kathy Moore Trio up there, a band that I was in for a very short while called Maiden Moss, she was like, well, you're young. Why are you into this like old psychedelic prog rock? And I was just like, well, probably Guitar Hero. I was being funny, right? I mean, it was definitely a contributing factor. Also, just growing up in a household of not necessarily musicians, but of music lovers, I was introduced to a lot of different stuff. And I consider myself lucky for that because I have a lot of different influences as a result.
So you've been called one of the most active and collaborative artists in the February U.S. Sutter, California's monthly magazine, and I can understand why. There's so many artists that you've filmed their music videos for. September 14th, 2020 was the Buzz Crafters for their songs Nation and Lockdown. October 4th, 2020 was the Speakeasy Jazz Cats for their song Viper Boogie.
Yes.
And then October 26th, 2020 was Shannon Jones' song Beating Heart, just to name a few.
Yeah, well, so 2020 is like I'm just starting my music career and then the whole frickin' world locks down. And so, fortunately, in some communities, less than others, we could still kind of get together in different spaces and it wasn't super taboo or whatever. I was kind of desperate because I'm like, no, I'm just starting to peek out of my shell and I'm starting this music career and now there's nowhere to play. And I just really leaned into the idea of creating together. And so what I did for the Buzz Crafters, I think those two music videos were the first that I made, and that was all stock footage. They just told me, just make lyric video stock footage. And I was like, okay, but I put a lot of thought into it because they paid me. I was my first paid music video making gig. And so I did do a pretty good job with what I had. Also during 2020, again, I'm just like antsy to make some progress in my music career. So I was up there in Seattle. I wrote the song on the way up that I wanted to record with that jazz band, the Speakeasy Jazz Cats. On some downtime, we went out to Prospect Park, one of the big parks in the Seattle area. And I just filmed them. That was just very easy. I wouldn't ever charge anyone for something like that. And then Shannon, she's a good friend. And she was like, how would you feel about making a music video for this? And it's basically about a woman who had an abortion and really regretted it. And I was like, yeah, sounds kind of, you might be a little incendiary, but I don't care. If it's a story that you have from your heart and it's a true story that so many people experience, let's do it. I felt that we should. That was the only music video of those ones that was an actual story-based acting and everything. And I never did that again for anybody. After that, because I started writing a lot. Come late 2020, early 2021, I started writing a lot of my own songs. And so that kind of stuff fell to the wayside. It's something I wanted to try, but it's not necessarily something I'm passionate about. So I'm glad I did it though. It was fun.
So that's pretty much the end of your behind the scenes work when it comes to collaborating with artists then.
Yeah, there's very little else. I mean, we did a little interview video with Shannon so she could talk a little bit more about the video. But yeah, there hasn't been much else like that. It's all been kind of creating new things with my friends to present as ours or mine or whatever.
Now it seems that you're leaning towards performing covers with different artists, as well as collaborating on different songs for albums. You're also in a couple of bands, or you were a part of a couple of bands.
Yeah, Maiden Moss was really short-lived up in Seattle. I think we wanted different things. And I can't necessarily commit to being in Seattle full-time. Obviously, a big part of what I'm doing this year is traveling. I think it's better that they have someone who's lives in that area full time. Wonderful music. I hope the album comes out sometime soon. Super proud of the 9 songs that we co-wrote for it. So yeah, that was really short, but I still counted, hoping to get the actual album out of it and I can have another notch in my belt. But there's also Pigeon Town Hoochers, which is ongoing Americana thing. Steve and I started playing together in late 2022. So anything that I release that sounds like country or it's too twangy to just call folk music, then that's going to be released under the studio project title of Pigeon Town Hoochers. It's not necessarily like the band, the forward-facing entity that I would like perform with, but Steve and I perform together, and he considers himself like a supportive role in what I'm doing. So we'll just kind of introduce it as, oh, Frankie McCabe, and this is Steve Wheeler. So yeah, Pigeon Town Hoochers is not a performing act anymore. It's just a studio project. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk about one of the earlier ones then. May 25th, 2021, you announced that you were part of a new band project called Hobo Starseed, and that lasted until their final show, January 17th, 2023.
Yeah, so Chris Grandy and I started that when I was up in Seattle for Old Marysville Hotel, the song that I performed with Speakeasy Jazz Cats. The person who recorded us was down in a basement with just like, here's a microphone here, everyone's in the same room. There's no like partitions to isolate noise. I couldn't help but notice the audio engineer, Chris Grandy, who lived at that house. He captured a really good sound. And I had never done a live recording before, so it was a little daunting, but this band was just like on point. But yeah, I mean, Chris did such a great job, and I was like, he's such a competent audio engineer. And then my friend at the time, Dusty, who was the leader of the Jazz Cats, he's like, yeah, Chris, you and him would work really well together. He does rock music, you do the moody rock music stuff, like, you guys should start a band. And that was enough. I was just like, hey, Chris, do you want to start a band? Like, I know I live in California, you live in Seattle, but whatever, let's do it. And so we started a band. We just decided, let's write together. And I said, let's make a concept album. He was super supportive of the vision I had for it, despite the fact it was a little dark. I went back home after we recorded that song, Old Marysville Hotel, but with a excitement about what I had just signed on for. I knew I'd be back in Seattle. But now it was time to record little voice memos and ideas so we can start, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Check out this. We had some Zoom band jam sessions, Chris and I, and we worked really well together. You know, we didn't even really know each other. So it was a cool way to get to know somebody. It's kind of an intimate thing, creating music together. I just was like, yeah, I like what you're doing there, but maybe like change up the chords here on this bridge. And then I would write a song and he would add a bridge and it'd be really creative. And it's something I wouldn't have thought of. And I'm like, wow, that just made the song a lot more fully realized. And as I've gone on, I've learned that's not the case with everyone. You know, Gwen's somebody that I can write with really easily, but it's not the case. Not everybody has that sort of chemistry. Even if they're a very good songwriter in their own right, it doesn't mean it always mixes well. We wrote the majority of the album while we were apart. And then I came up to Seattle in spring of 2021. We formed a band around the material, recorded, and we didn't play that many shows. It was just a lot of things are closed because of COVID still. And I'm broke. I can't afford to be there. And I was just, you guys, I'm sorry, but this isn't working. I can't get an email back from venues because we don't have a draw, because no one else is booking us, because half the shit's closed because of COVID. It was just not a great time to try and launch a band, honestly. But the material that came out of it, I'm always going to be super proud of. Like, I love Farewell Tour album. It's, to me, like, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to do anything better than that, which scares me because that's my first album, but oh well.
Reflecting back at your time with Hobo Starseed,
yeah,
what are some of the lessons that you learned from that band that you took and incorporated into your other bands?
You know, I'd say it's more about just maturing. You learn a lot about yourself and group dynamics and how to keep things copacetic and how to humble yourself in certain situations. And there was some growing pains associated with it, but keeping people happy and just being able to look at things from different points of view. Yeah, not stepping on other people's toes or putting people out, but just being very thoughtful, which as we grow up and everything, we learn it's more than just us to keep happy. We got to keep everyone happy. And so I would say it taught me to just be more considerate and stuff, you know, and especially as someone who's as collaborative as I am, that's something I'm glad that I learned, is to try and be thoughtful.
And then while you were part of the band, you guys filmed an entire film, the Hobo Starseed Farewell Tour, which is also the title of the album.
Keep it simple, you know. It's a concept album, and the movie pretty much just extrapolates what's not said in the lyrics. So it was mainly spearheaded by me, whereas Chris Grandy, my collaborator up there, wonderful artist, he was a fantastic audio engineer. And most of the production decisions and everything, I think maybe even all of them were kind of his. You know, we wrote together, but when it came to like, what instrument are we going to have on this album and blah, 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 I just kind of was like, you do your thing. Because by that point, you know, in 2021, I hadn't really honed my ear for production. I'm in a lot better space for that now. But I just trusted him, and that was the right move. But with the movie, that was something I was really interested. I was like, I think I kind of want to be a filmmaker. Spoiler alert, I do not. But I wanted to, and so I just blew my load for 9 months straight on this project. And I brought up this huge bag of small weed nugs that my grower friend gave me. And I just went on Facebook and was like, hey, who wants to be an extra in my movie? I'll give you a fat bag of weed. And it was like definitely a felonious amount of this garbage bag of weed that I went up to Seattle with. But that's part of how I got the gears moving on getting people involved. And then a few people really stuck by and helped actually make it a reality. So shout out to a few different people. There's Cedric Bloodsaw Jr., who was the first person that I asked. I'd never even met him. I just saw him on Facebook and was like, oh, he's looking for a role. Maybe he'll take this. I can't pay him that much, and he took it and he did a freaking awesome job. There's so many people I need to shout out for that, though. I mean, there's people who were like, yeah, you can have this location, you can have this location, I'll do my makeup artistry for free. It was a lot of like generosity. It was exhausting for me, and I low-key feel like it traumatized me just being like that stressed for 9 months straight, because I'm like, what if I get 75% of this movie shot and then the lead actor says, I'm out. It was like walking on eggshells for 9 months, and I didn't realize until the movie was done how tormenting it felt. Having everything just hanging in the balance for that long. Oh man, yeah, my blood pressure's going up thinking about it. But I'm really proud of it. It'll always be something I'm proud of, I think.
And that was your first time directing something of that magnitude?
Definitely. It's just over an hour. It was an insane amount of work. I wouldn't ever want to do that again. Honestly, not unless I had like 5 of me to share all the duties, for sure.
But you've taken what you've learned from that and put it into your music videos then.
Honestly, that movie was the thing that really burnt me out, and I don't even really like to make music videos now. I will, but I hate when I get ideas for music videos because I'm like, damn, now I have to do this. Whereas like I was excited to do stuff. It's stressful. I don't know why, if it's like my OCD about, you know, getting the perfect shot and all these concerns piling up, but it drains me, whereas music feeds my spirit. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to lean less into the thing that makes me feel cracked out and crazy, and I'm going to lean into the thing that makes me feel, you know, rejuvenated and fulfilled. Yeah, music videos, I hope I don't have to make that many more, but I think I'm going to have to. Now that I'm working with Gwen, we have ideas, and it is what it is.
So the songs on the Hobo Starseed Farewell Tour album are Dawn of a Dream, The Seed, Trip into Madness, Going Places, Disappearing Act, Shaking Hands, Ancient Waltz, Last Stop, and Encore.
Yeah.
You on vocals, guitar, and keyboard, Chris Grandy on vocals, guitar, bass, keyboard, Wes Hampson, drums and percussion, and
Alan Sobolik did a lot of bass.
Alan Sobolik on bass.
Yeah, and then we also had a piano player, Jim, I don't know his name. He was just briefly living at that house. It was kind of like a hippie halfway house. Not a halfway house, but there was a lot of questionable characters in and out of there. We called it the Hoser House. But yeah, there was 2 very good saxophone players on there as well. Dave Delangowitz and Jeremy Shaskas. And then also cello from Evan Griffiths, who actually, Evan and I my most recent music video, They Don't Take Kindly to My Kind, he and I created the instrumental together. And so I'm still, you know, in different capacities working with a lot of those people from Hobo Starseed.
And then this one that you mentioned before that, because of the pandemic, it was hard for you to get shows and do band stuff.
It was.
Did that also play a part in when you were promoting the songs on the album? Was it being within that time period a detriment to the album's release?
You know, it's Seattle. It's alternative rock in Seattle. There's so much of that up there. I mean, I think we stood out when I put on, you know, online that like, hey, you know, this is going to be our last show for an indefinite amount of time. And some people came out and were just like, man, it's a shame. Like, you guys are really doing something special. And like, one of my friends was like crying that we weren't going to still be a band. And I was like, I'm sorry. It just doesn't make sense to try and grind for a rock band in Seattle. I'm fucking broke. It just didn't make sense. It would have felt kind of fruitless, honestly. But there's a lot of good rock music in Seattle. I just think I'm not great at promoting music. I don't know why that is. I'm just not. So I just wanted to book us shows, and then I probably had some starry-eyed idea that we'd hit the lotto and some person would come in and be like, hey, we want to sign you, which is stupid, because unless you have a big following online, no one wants to sign you. And do you even really want to be signed as an indie artist? Sounds like a kind of raw deal. Anyways, I think I just didn't have a very good understanding of things going into it anyway. But to this day, I mean, I'm not good at promoting music. I just kind of put it out there. I'm like, if you like me, you're going to watch it. I'm not going to beg you. You know, it feels like undignified to do all that crap. And maybe that's my pride getting in my way. But I really don't feel like begging people to give a crap about what I make, because I think it's really good. And I'm just not going to beg. Not going to beg for attention. And that's what a lot of promo feels like.
For the next band, the first time I heard you mention Maiden Moss was during an interview with comedian Mike B on YouTube. That interview was August 24th, 2023, and Maiden Moss had their last performance October 22nd, 2024 at the Tractor Tavern.
Right, we went out with a bang. That's like a very good, dignified stage to play on in Seattle at the Tractor. It was a wonderful show, too. Pretty good turnout.
And did this band just stay Seattle-based, or did it tour a little bit?
You know, I don't even think we played more than 15 shows, but during the summer, we did a couple things in Oregon. Mm-hmm. That's not really a tour, you know. So we scooted a little bit outside of the area, but again, I'm like, damn, do I really want to grind for a rock band in Seattle? Like, does that feel smart? No. Like, I need to get past being homeless, you know, first. And that just doesn't feel like a safe bet. It's expensive to live in Seattle, too. But towards the end of that, actually, the keyboard player for Maiden Moss, Rick, he's like, well, if you need a place to stay anytime you're up here, I've got a tree house out in my yard. And I was like, a tree house? What? And then he sent me pictures. I was like, oh, it's like a little house, actually. It's not just like a little swing and a little platform and I'm going to be shivering out there. It's like you could plug in a heater and there's carpet and these windows. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Maybe, no, I wasn't the right fit for Maiden Moss. But now whenever I'm up in Seattle, I have that spot and I don't have to worry about who I'm going to put out by, hey, can I sleep on your couch? So embarrassing. So, yeah, that's my, like, spot as far as I know. It's like, anytime you're up here, I'm just glad to see it getting used.
And that's two bands that you've had in Seattle.
Yes.
What is generally what the Seattle music scene look like?
I don't know. I wasn't with either of them long enough to really suss that out. I mean, I do get the impression that the sound guys get paid pretty well up there. And so if you're not bringing in a lot of people, like, it's not uncommon for bars to be like, after the first $250 is made at the door, then we start paying out the bands. And it's like, damn, on a Monday night, like, we could all bring out a pretty decent amount of people and still not get anything. And that can be a bit disheartening. And I don't want to, like, shit on the Seattle scene. But, I mean, like, that's one thing I've noticed where I'm like, well, I'd rather just go across to Bainbridge where people are actually, like, fans of me. And I'll get, you know, paid and I'll play at this winery and I really love the owners of the winery and, like, it's just a little cozier over in Kitsap County across the Puget Sound. And Renton as well, you know, people, you can book an actual paying gig and there are some people who will come out and support me if I play there. And we actually just booked the Renton River Days Festival as one of our tour dates on our upcoming summer tour. Yeah, July 27th, we're going to be playing that. And so, yeah, it's like the surrounding areas is what I played more in than actually Seattle itself. More solo and duo stuff, you know, it wasn't really for the bands necessarily, but more just like for my livelihood.
Now, I know you helped Steve Wheeler with a music video, When We Go Our Separate Ways, November 28th, 2021. But was that when the Pigeon Town Hoochers was formed, or was it after your first performance together, October 15th, 2022? Or even was it when the name was mentioned for the first time, March 13th, 2023?
I think I went up to Seattle and did my first, like, long-term thing there for Hobo Starseed in spring of 2021. And I spent, like, 4 months there, 4 months in Yuba City, 4 months there, 4 months. And so it started to kind of mess up my idea of, okay, when was that? Where was that? Who was that? Yeah, I would say that Steve and I, we met in late 2021. And he said to me, hey, I have these songs. If you wanted to sing them, I could pay you. And I was like, well, I just so happened to be getting some amount of interest in doing country music and having a solo country album. So how about don't give me money, just let me sing them and I'll put them on my CD. And then now I've got more of the album filled out because I only have 2 ideas right now. But I know I want to go in this direction. And then that turned into, instead of us making a Frankie album, we're just like, well, it's called Pigeon Town Hoochers. And I just came up with this stupid name. And he kind of got bullied into having to go with it. And yeah, we did a fair amount of collaborative writing for it. Some of the songs are just by me. Some of them are just by Steve, but they all work really well together. Super proud of that one too. I've got a couple friends that are like, that one just stays on repeat in my car. Like, I love that record so much. And obviously that feels great. So we started working together in late 2021 and it just kind of snowballed. And then I was like, well, when I'm in town, let's play some gigs. Cause now I'm making money in Seattle. I can start, or around Seattle, and now I can make money when I go home and kind of have a good thing going on both fronts.
And that's your most recent album, Late Bloomer.
Yeah, that's the Pigeon Town Hoochers debut. 10 original songs and 2 covers.
And that includes Late Bloomer, Harvest Party featuring Marie Campbell, Thimbleberry Creek, Rough and Ready with A Hermit featuring Marie Campbell.
Oh, Manny Cervantes on the harmonica.
Wandering Star, Swamp Witch with Swamp Tuxedo.
Yes.
I Wonder What's on Your Mind. Angeline.
Mm-hmm.
God's Gonna Cut You Down. Elizabeth. Angel in Yosemite. And Midnight Special.
Yeah. I love the cover of Midnight Special that we did. When I told Steve, I was like, okay, I want to do Midnight Special. He's like, everybody does Midnight Special. I was like, maybe back in the 70s or 80s, but like, trust me, not everyone's doing it all the time. Like, we're good. And then I was like, I want the harmonica to be bluesy and I want the trumpet to be jazzy. And I have a vision for this song. He's like, I don't know about any of this. And then when he heard it and I was kind of producing that one, I was mainly my vision for that one. He's like, all right, I got to hand it to you. That one turned out really good. So got to pat myself on the back for that.
And then was it more your idea or Steve's idea to start recording, performing, standing in bathtubs?
Oh, that was me. I just wanted good bathroom acoustics. And then it kind of turned into a little dumb meme for us for a couple months. Turlet tunes.
And one of those Turlet tunes was a sneak peek of Elizabeth on September 19th, 2023. And that's when we see the teal duck in the toilet.
The unicorn duck. Yes, that was our friend Jeremy's idea. Shout out Jeremy Martin. He's like, because we were standing in the shower and he's like, trust me on this. And he puts the rubber duck in the toilet. And I was like, okay, Jeremy. And lo and behold, we post it. He starts the shot on the toilet duck and then he zooms out and we play. And that video snagged the attention of Al Diaz, who's a friend over in... well, he's now a friend. It was YouTube Shorts introduced us. And he's like, yeah, that toilet duck caught my attention. And then he's the one who made some album art or some fan art for me that I have up on the Instagram. So it's interesting how dumb little ideas like that will like patch you right through to your people. They're like, yeah, it was just weird enough for me to be like, what is this shit? And then he loved the song and still loves it. I think it's probably one of his favorites from us.
Al Diaz, he gave you fan art.
Yes.
The tattoo style fan art.
Mm-hmm.
With the teal duck as one.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was
shooting out of like a geyser out of the toilet.
The six-eyed man from the tripping out scene from Hobo Starseed.
Yep.
And then the Princess Frank album art.
Yes. Yeah, I was like, when he sent that to me, I was like, whoa, this feels like I've leveled up. I just got like fan art in a nice frame and all these like little flash tats. And yeah, it was really cool. That meant a lot to me. He's a good friend now.
And then when you receive stuff like that from people that are considered fans before they become friends,
right?
At what level do you think you feel that rock star status? Was it when you were signing guitars or when you started receiving different kinds of fan art? I
felt like a rock star at the first show that we did for Hobo Starseed. It was amazing. The vibes were just like, I don't know what it was. Maybe because it's my first rock show with the band and I dreamt of that since I was a little dork. And we played that show. We were the headliner at our debut show, that already made us feel pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But we had a full 6-piece band with saxophone. The saxophone player flew up from California to play that show with us. And I think he had a friend from California that flew up to watch it too. So I was right. And I felt so confident up there. We sounded pretty freaking awesome. This was our first show together, and the excitement around us, and like, hey, let us get pictures with you, sign this. And I'm like, wow, like this little taste of being recognized and appreciated for what you bring to the table. Even though I'm not a dancey, extroverted, stage present type of person, I just was up there and I felt so in my element and so appreciated. Yeah, I think we sounded great. So that was my first thing with like May 20th, 2022. That's the first time I felt like a rock star, for sure.
Everyone starts out as a new artist, and we are constantly evolving with our art and the different things that we do for our art. July 6, 2021, you created your first 10-song LP on a CD that you could sell.
Yeah, I wrapped them up in lunch bags.
And you wrote, please subscribe to my YouTube channel on there.
For cheesy music videos. Yes, I did write that.
That was with the help of Robert Holland and Chris Grandy.
Yeah, majority was my friend Rob Holland. He's the first person I recorded with. And then Chris helped me with the mastering of it, just a quick master of it. And so, yeah, I mean, that was technically my first CD release, but it's a little rough. There's one song on that I did not end up putting on my actual first album. And so it's 9 of the same songs from my first album, which is 10 songs. But I took Get Off My Lawn off because it was a little rough, a little too rough. And then I wrote this other one that came to me really quickly about pornography addiction of all things. It's called Starve the Parasite. And it's like this hard rock song in the middle of this like folky album. Like it doesn't fully make sense, but I was like, this goes on there. So Chris and I did that song together in terms of the production, and he recorded that one start to finish. But yeah, I took Get Off My Lawn off, and other than that, it was pretty much my first album worth of songs, just swapped those songs out.
Okay. You had sold your first 4 LPs at an on-the-spot poetry experience where their slogan was poetry, any topic, any price.
Yeah. Yes. That was a really cool experience because I'd never used a typewriter before. And that was kind of cool. But also, you're in Capitol Hill, Seattle, which is effervescent area, to say the least. It's a lot of drunk people and drug addicts. It's crazy, actually. Capitol Hill is kind of crazy. But the vibes were kind of like magical. And just that night and those few nights that I did it. And so someone would come up and then stumble up and they'd be like, well, what's this? And you'd be like, I'm just, whatever you want me to write a poem about, whatever you want to pay me for it, even if it's $1, you know. And sometimes they'd say, well, here's the topic, or they'd say, you come up with it, or whatever. And it was a really cool experience because I'm not an artist that improvises much. And so to have to come up with writing that was worth a crap, like on the spot, was a really cool way to sort of creatively stimulate and challenge myself. I only did it a few times, though, because my social battery drained fast. So I was like, okay, this was good. I'm out of here, though. But yeah, I did sell some of those. My first CD sales were right there on the corner of like 10th and Pike there in the Capitol Hill. And
then June 19th, 2023, you shared a post about some hand-drawn business cards on index cards for $2.
From the Dollar General. Yes.
I'm not sure if this is your first run of business cards, but I feel like that would be a great way for artists starting out to make business cards.
I think handmade is good whatever stage you're at. I think people are craving handmade and personal and human more than ever. I also think people just stuff business cards in their wallet and then forget about it. So I pretty much just, if someone wants, hey, how do I find you? I'll be like, give me your phone. Because if I tell you my name, you're either going to forget it or you're going to, yeah, sure, I'll follow you later. So give me your phone. I'll follow you, follow me from your YouTube, your Instagram, TikTok or Facebook if you got it. But business cards, I think in general, it's like people just prefer a QR sort of situation, I think. And it's more eco-friendly. I just have them. They're kind of like mementos. Maybe I'll sell them someday.
I mean, they give out the same information, right?
Right. But I have to cross Spotify off because I don't believe in Spotify, I'll be honest. I am on Spotify, but that's because our membership doesn't run out until Halloween. Mm-hmm. So the Late Bloomer album is up on Spotify until Halloween, and then I'm going to cut that membership off.
So we mentioned how you felt like a rock star.
Yes.
Along those lines, on March 9th, 2023, you posted, thinking a bit more about the public figure aspect of being an artist and how much of that is necessary and how much am I willing to prepare to be comfortable with?
Yeah, so eloquent was I.
Could you elaborate more on that point for me?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that. I'll try to keep it brief, though, because I like to rant too much. I'm a little self-indulgent in that regard. I think, not that I'm at much risk of it, being such a small artist who hasn't really fully gotten anywhere yet, but I just think that sometimes when you get to a certain level of what others would deem success, now you and everything that happens to you and surrounding you is kind of an extension of the entertainment you provide. You kind of stop being, like, human to some people. It's like, you know, someone will go online and they'll see some celebrity and they'll be like, oh God, she got too much filler. She looks terrible. And it's like, would you say that to her face? Would you say that to your mom if she got some botched filler? No. Like, we just feel too comfortable. Like, we act like they don't have feelings past a certain point. Yeah, I just never really want to be in that position where people don't afford me that same respect that they might afford just a person who they consider just a person and not a celebrity. Or I'm probably at no risk of ever being a celebrity. I don't do any of the right things to get into that. I'm pulling my stuff off streaming. I don't promote my music very well. I just converted my personal Instagram and Facebook and TikTok into Frankie and Gwen profiles. So I'm recluding, into hermitude here, but I don't like the way that people regard celebrities. They kind of have simultaneously put them on a pedestal and decided they're subhuman and you exist for their entertainment. And so I really appreciate artists like Chapel Roan, who's like, I'm going to call this out. Like, we need to put some boundaries up. This has gotten out of hand. And that's really brave of her because that's going to piss people off. But I haven't heard anything that she said where I'm like, oh yeah, that's out of pocket. That's out of line. She's just saying what needs to be said. So that's probably what I was getting at, and just wanting to be private, because even at my small level of whatever you would call my career establishment, I still get weirdos that glom on, and they kind of think they know you based on, a song or a lyric, and it's creepy, and, sometimes they're like just jerks, sometimes they're like creepy. So yeah, I like the idea of, being an artist that has either a duo. No one really feels that they're addressing you personally online. I like the comfort that mentally provides. But also there's, the Instagram marketing guru people like Natasha, I forget her last name, but she used to be like a former creative marketing director for Sony or something. And so there's little tidbits she has dropping on Instagram that, Natasha Brito, Brito. And I like what she has to say. She seems keyed in. Obviously, if she held that position with Sony, she knows her stuff. But she's like, here's one direction you can go as an artist, or one direction. You can either go the hyper relatable route, or you can go like the creative high concept kind of route. And you have to be either really charismatic to be the relatable route. You have to have a solid amount of like creative direction to go the more conceptual route. And I was like, I think I want to do the conceptual thing. I'd like to have that barrier up. And yeah, pivoting away from having my own personal socials is nice. And then like some of the pages that we had started for Frankie and Gwen are now fan run accounts, which sounds funny to call people fans, but that's what they are. I like the idea of having things shared through that instead of me constantly giving up personal thoughts and things in Instagram stories and just ranting there all the time. So I'm weaning myself off of Instagram stories. It's gotten out of hand. And yeah, that's about all I think. I said I was going to keep it short too, didn't I?
So on Hobo Starseed, the Farewell Tour, in the film, you did a little bit of acting in that.
I did. I played the fentanyl mama.
Do you enjoy the acting portion of...
I love acting. I do. Actually, when I first started making music videos, I had barely written any songs, but I was like, I want to show people I can be an actor. And so that's why I started making music videos, was because I literally wanted to just make my own little demo reel and like see if anyone thought I'd be a good actor. And I'll be happy to tell you that Charlie Peacock, who's a producer who's from my hometown, but he's gone to Nashville, he's won Grammys, like he's super successful. When my friend Steve Wheeler sent in some stuff about me, because he took this class that Charlie Peacock's father taught at the college back in the 70s. And he's like, Charlie, what do you think? I'm working with this young artist. I want to help her out. What can you provide for her in the way of like feedback or whatever, constructive? One of the things that Charlie had said towards the bottom of the email was like, yeah, vibe-wise, she's there, just maybe take like a couple vocal lessons. But he was really thoughtful response and really encouraging. what he had to say about me, but he said, like, she might even consider getting a manager down in LA and being an actor. And I was like, sweet. But I don't want a manager. That sounds scary. So.
Well, March 6, 2025, you were one of the nominees for Best Actress in the Sacktown Movie Buff Film Festival.
Yeah, that happened, didn't it? I was not able to attend, so I don't know what came of that. But I do know that my friend Shane, who shot that video, did win Best Director for it. Oh. So, yeah. That video is not online anywhere. I didn't want it online.
And then you had mentioned Old Marysville Hotel.
Yeah.
That one won the October 19th, 2021 Best Film Award in the
Yuba Sutter.
Yuba Sutter.
Yeah, it was number 1. I had a lot of competition. It was the first year of the film festival, but it was still very cool to hear that people liked it. And that was before, because last summer the hotel burned down, and the song is about the hotel getting demolished and a bunch of ghosts having a party the night before it gets demolished. So people were like really searching that video up, and I took it down because I'm a jerk. But right after the hotel burned down, like, yeah, a lot of people were looking up that video and they're like, wow, Frankie's psychic. I'm like, no, I didn't predict it was going to get arsoned. Like, anyways. That's what I think happened. Yeah, it was pretty sketchy. I don't know who. I don't have like theories, but it certainly seemed to have been inflicted by somebody intentionally. Which is a shame. And I wrote that song about it because I love it. You know, I love old history, and I don't want to see things get torn down if they don't have to. But fire kind of decided its fate.
December 27th, 2022, you had mentioned that you signed your first sync licensing contract for the usage of 2 of your original songs to filmmaker Jason Hawkins.
Yeah.
Indigo.
Yes, which is not released publicly.
That became part of the actual film, and it wasn't just the background noise.
Right.
And then Glass Splinters ended up in the end credits.
Yes.
Both of these are part of the movie Deleted on Amazon, possibly on Tubi and Vudu as well.
Yeah. So that's not really something I'm actively seeking out. It's just a friend of mine in the Seattle filmmaking scene tagged me on this director's post. He's like, hey, I'm looking for really good indie artist, and he tagged me, and I was like, what the heck? I got these songs. Like, and then he picked them out of all the people that responded. He picked my stuff, so I felt pretty good about myself. And then I saw a clip of the movie, and like, not only was the only other music in the movie was all scoring, and so the only actual sung songs were 2 songs from me, which I thought that was really cool because it's extra spotlight. But yeah, the song was the lead character's favorite song, and so like at this one scene, she's like, listen to the lyrics, and I'm just like, whoa, that's so cool. They're like having a moment over my song. And then yeah, during the ending credits, they had Glass Splinters playing. That one was, I guess, more backgroundy noise, but still, thinking that there wasn't other sung songs in the entire movie, that was a sort of spotlight as well. So that was cool. I think it's hard to get sync deals like in the real big scheme of things. You know, indie filmmakers, we help each other out. Indie music, you know, like, let me use your song. It's good for me because you agree to a percentage if the movie takes off. But if not, it's still a little cool plot point for your resume. And now I have some cool music for my movie, and we could help each other out. And that's community building sort of thing. But I guess sync deals are hard to get because they kind of already know what they're looking for. So I don't think anything I do really fits in a category neatly enough to like appeal to the sync catalog type people. So it's not something I'm pursuing. It'd be lovely to be able to make a passive income off of something like that. But I just don't think that anything I do, unless the song blew up itself and then now it's a sought after thing and now they want to put it in a movie for that, then maybe that could happen somewhere down the road. Not ruling it out.
February 26, 2022, your website went live, thanks to the help of your cousin, as well as Kurt Clark.
So for the first year, he's like, now that you're starting out, protect your domain name. So he paid for the first year of FrankieMcCabe.com. And now I pay for it the last couple of years. But that was GoDaddy, and that was too expensive. And so a friend, or fan turned friend in Renton, Washington, said that he could make the website for me with Bluehost. And so he designed that. We had some kind of creative ideas, and he had a lot of creative license on what he wanted to do with that. But I wanted there to be like this kind of like graffiti, and I'm still finding what my unified personal aesthetic is. But yeah, we were just like, well, how about just a patchwork of all these different things? And
that was Roger Kim?
Yeah.
I like that you credited a lot of the artists that did help with the art for the page.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask if you had a lot of input with everything. specifically because of the graffiti wall on one page, and then there was the universe stars on the video page. I think one of my favorite ones was the shopping cart for the cart page.
You know, most of the design there, as far as how everything was laid out, I mean, that was mainly Roger kind of just did his thing. And if I wanted to kind of tweak something here or there, of course have input, but it's like, I think you got this. I'll step back and let you do your thing. Which is really cool because I don't know how to make my own website. And so it was really nice of him to offer. And, now that I have Frankie McCabe is not really an entity on social media outside of YouTube now, which that's not really social media per se. But so it's nice to have like a hub where the people who are like, hey, I love Frankie and Gwen and everything, but if I ever want to like reach you directly or see, your albums or know when they're out, you can sign up for my mailing list. There's like, that's where I want to direct people for my personal like solo ventures. FrankieMcCabe.com.
And now with everything off of streaming sites, that's the only place to find the 4 albums that you have.
Yeah, you can hear obviously Farewell Tour in its entirety if you watch the movie on my YouTube channel. And most, if not all of the songs, I think most, maybe even all of the songs from my first album, my first solo album that came out September 2022, This Is Why We Don't Have Nice Things, most of those are on YouTube as individual, lyric videos or story videos. But the majority of Princess Frank is not on YouTube. Part of that being because it was a very collaborative thing, and Late Bloomer, quite a bit of that is able to be found online. Not all of it. Got to give people some incentive to buy the copy or download it from my website. But yeah, Princess Frank, it's not a solo album. I was kind of treating it like it was, but that and Monkey Odie are 2 things that I started on during the lockdown. Because like I said, I was hungry for progress and creative momentum. And so people were just sending me stuff. Hey, do you want to make a song with this? And okay. It's mainly just like a collaborative COVID album. Yeah, Princess Frank has a few things I wrote by myself, but the majority of it was co-written stuff.
Princess Frank, a COVID collaborative album, includes Little Brother with Dennis Higgins, Keep Cruising Along with Bodie Dulac. Have You Heard the News with Dennis Higgins again, Beast with a Thousand Eyes by Bob Coford, Can't Take Me Anywhere with Skookum Jack?
Skookum Jack, yeah.
Okay.
I like naming things very stupid names, if you haven't noticed.
New Girl with Dead Telegraph, Control Freak, Constellation Prizes, Late Night TV featuring Jacob Aginski, Duct Tape Boots featuring Maylin
Hirant.
Maylin Hirant.
Yeah. Princess
Frank featuring Gary Regina and Rob Holland.
Yes.
And then Old Marysville Hotel featuring the Speakeasy Jazz Cats.
Yeah.
What was it like working with all these different artists to put up this album?
I will say that it was a good learning experience. It was good because there's so many different irons in the fire. So I got to learn, this song's in this genre and this song's kind of in that genre. And it was fulfilling for me in that respect because I have interest in so many different styles of music. So if you listen to it and you're expecting a cohesive album, you're going to be so disappointed. But it was nice to get to spread my wings and like, oh, this song kind of has a harder rock vibe. This one's like an 80s sci-fi rock vibe. Like it was a fun experiment and it taught me quite a bit, about just working with others. But a lot of it was done remotely too. That kept it a little easier. I didn't have to travel all over,
And with this one being such a collaborative album, did you notice that if there was any spike in the CD sales and digital downloads compared to your solo album?
The majority of the people that I collaborated with on those songs are not active online or have followings. It was just about the songs. It's just about making music, So I wasn't thinking in terms of like, how is this going to benefit me and get me in front of new audiences. It was just about making stuff, starting to really co-write a lot during that album, during Princess Frank. So I wasn't thinking very strategically about it. So it was just mainly just to do it.
At the end of the day, that's always a good thing to do.
I'd say.
And then we mentioned your solo album before, This Is Why We Don't Have Nice Things. That one had King Baby, Bad Medicine, Lifeline, Commercial Street Ghost, Going Your Way,
Yes.
Beautiful Poison,
Yeah.
Glass Splinters, Bunker Party,
Yeah.
Starve the Parasite, and Scared Little Girl.
Yeah, those are all very good songs, I will say. Yes.
Did you do anything special to promote that album when it came out?
You know, I posted about it on Facebook, and decent amount of sales come from Facebook. They do. It's what I found when I was trying to get rid of the last few copies of Princess Frank, because I'm like, okay, we're getting ready to do Late Bloomer. I just want to sell. And so I made a story on Instagram, and I had just sold one, and I said, like, okay, guys, I only have like 17 copies of this album left. And then it spiraled, and then like, so every 3 minutes, I'm like, okay, guys, I only have 16 left. And like, people were like, it kind of fed this thing, and I was able to quickly move the rest of them. And one person in England even bought one, which is really cool. I mean, duty or whatever, it's like international shipping is really expensive. So I marked it down a lot, because I was like, you're a fellow artist. Like, I'm not going to make you pay that much for an album. But I'm just happy that it's getting rehomed across the ocean, and that feels like progress to me. So yeah, I think Facebook's a good spot. When my stuff is ready, people will watch a video if I link it there, and people will buy a shirt, CD, or sticker if I mention it there. Then Venmo me and Facebook.
And then that other collaborative album that you mentioned was
Monkey Oti.
Monkey Oti.
Yeah.
November 21st, 2022, you had first posted about your collaborative album Monkey Oti. But I noticed recently, May 14th, 2025, that you posted that you were working on the album art. You were doing something with the leaves. Is this the same album, or is this a sequel album with the same name?
Right. You know, it is the same. It is the Monkey Oti. I was working on Princess Frank and Monkey Oti concurrently. Both meant to be very collaborative, but whereas Princess Frank was just a grab bag of stuff, Monkey Oti, it's gone through a few different titles. It was going to be called Stages for the Ages. We were going to call the band, Element 115, the person I was working on it with. But it started with some electronic stuff. I was like, let's just make a whole electronic album. That sounds fun. But interestingly enough, the person I started on the album with, I hope he's okay. He lives in Ohio. He was posting all the time to Spotify and monthly. He was always coming out with all of these kind of kooky spoken word, alternate universe electronic songs. And he was sending the instrumentals to me, and I was like, hey, this is fun to sing to. I actually think we got something here. Let's make a whole album. And we were working together for a little while, and then I haven't heard from him in 2 years. He stopped uploading altogether, so I don't know what's up. And I tried to call him and just be like, hey, just let me know you're okay. Like, even if you bailed on the album, it's like, whatever. Just let me know you're alive. So it's kind of a weird, kind of bittersweet thing. I'm finishing the album, but I didn't want to just stop at the 4 or so songs that we had. And I decided to kind of take things into my own hands and just be like, okay, I'm going to reach out to this person that does electronic music. I'm going to come up with, a cover that we can fill the album with and just have it be this jammy lo-fi cover of this old classic public domain song. Like, I just kind of filled it out, but it's not all filler. Then I started having fun with it and was like, I can just make really weird songs that don't belong anywhere else. And so now it's not just an electronic album. It's an experimental album with a lot of electronic elements. But yeah, Monkey Oti just kind of been something that after I started working with Steve on late night TV and then with Maiden Moss, there's a trickle of actual effort going towards it. But in recent months, definitely the effort has increased and the focus on it. And I really, knocking on wood, but I want to have the dang thing out this summer at some point. And I've worked with a lot of really interesting, talented, diverse artists on this album. So yeah, it's not a solo album. It's the second of 2 COVID collaboration albums, but I'm working on other solo albums. Actually, I have like 4 more other ones that so it's a lot. But I'm super proud of Monkey Oti, and I just feel like the spirit animal that I created for it, the monkey coyote, it's a good way to kind of convey the spirit of the album, which is, having to be crafty and clever and playful and all these things to make it happen, because it's run into so many roadblocks with it. You just kind of work with what you got and have fun with it. That's the important theme of the album. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I hope people like it. If they don't, I guess I don't care, because it's for me at this point.
November 8th, 2024, you started a short-run vlog series called Musical Hobo Car Vlogs.
Yeah.
The reason I'm bringing it up is because in episode 4, you'd mentioned a very scary situation with a drunk man trying to enter your car.
I assume he was drunk. Yeah, I was at the gas station and I pulled up behind this truck. I just saw these two guys like laughing. They didn't even see me yet, so it wasn't like, ooh, I didn't like how they just looked at me. Like, I just saw them laughing and was like, I get a weird vibe from these dudes and I'm gonna hang back. I pulled up to the pump behind them and I was just waiting for them to leave to get out and pump the gas. And I looked down at my phone for 10 seconds and I look up and the guy's standing right by my window and he's just motioning to open the door or whatever, and I'm just like, what the fuck? And I lock it real quick, and right as soon as I lock it, he goes to open the handle, so thank God I did. And then his friend comes up out of nowhere and just yanks him away and throws him in the truck, and they leave. It was very bizarre, and it was creepy because it's in the middle of Arizona in the middle of the night. The desert it doesn't feel like a very cozy place out in the middle of the night, on the I-40, and you're, a solo traveler, and yeah, it shook me quite a bit. Yeah, you gotta be vigilant. You really do.
With that, and then the scary situation that happened with you and Gwen.
Right.
Do you have any tips for people that are traveling to stay safe?
Well, when Gwen and I were stuck in that dust storm in New Mexico last month, there's these two guys, and they were kind of looking at us in this diner, and as soon as the guy's like, oh, you guys are traveling alone, and then Gwen just kind of like, kind of elbows me a little bit, and she's like, no, we got friends around, and I was like, yeah, that's smart. Probably don't tell strange men that we're traveling alone. So I would say that's a good one. Don't let people know you're traveling alone, and cover up your stuff in your car. Make it look like a tweaker hoarder situation in there, because if it looks like you got nice instruments and your car looks nice, it's kind of a target, right? So I keep my car I keep it a level of grungy and nasty looking. And it kind of flies by unnoticed. It's not so sketchy looking that people are like, wow, I bet that's the worst kind of criminal living in that car. But it's not nice enough to where a terrible criminal is going to be like, I bet they got something valuable in there. So largely, I'd say don't have your car look too nice or too shitty. That's for me. I don't know if that's good advice or not, but...
March 22nd, 2025, you talked about how music can be healing for both the listener and the performer alike. Yeah. And you had mentioned a story where you met a lady named Sandy that shared her story about helping at-risk kids with specialized music programs.
Yeah.
Can you explain what about that resonated?
Yeah, I think, because part of what she said was that once people are out on the streets and they've tried the drugs and they've really gotten down and out and desperate, at that point, a lot of people don't even really want help. And so intervening with a creative outlet that can be cathartic for kids while they're going through something could make all the difference in them choosing, having a sense of community or choosing to do something constructive and healing rather than destructive and that's going to isolate them. So I just really liked that idea, because when I'm in Seattle and I see the people sleeping under newspaper, hotboxing their shirt with crack pipes, it makes me sad, because I'm just like, what can I do? Yeah, just the idea of preventing people from getting to that spot where maybe they're not even going to want to be. They might think they're too far gone. Or maybe society looks at them and thinks that they're too far gone. Yeah, I just really liked that. I thought that was a good thought that she was putting out there with that. And I hope she's succeeding with it wherever she is.
Now I know that you can play a few different instruments, but what kind of different instruments can you play?
I always want to say none, honestly. But I do use guitar as my main go-to in terms of the tool that I use to compose things with or to support the melodies as I sing them. Guitar is kind of the most comfortable one, but I do like to record keys. I've recorded keyboard on, Scared Little Girl. So my first album, and on Hobo Star, so you had a little bit on there. Some on Monkey Yodi, some on my next solo album, which my next solo album I'm working on in Seattle with Chris Grandy. So I know it's in good hands. That one's called The World Didn't End, Now What? And I did a little keyboard on that. And actually some pretty good sounding keyboard. It almost sounds like I know how to play it. So I would say keyboard is in a studio setting. Most of us could probably make it sound like we know how to play it. So it's nothing to brag about, but I do like to challenge myself with it. And I just started picking up mandolin on the trip with Gwen last month. Oh, Gwen's taking care of the cat. And I also started to play percussion, cajon, all the different percussive elements. Not saying I'm any good at it. And then the other day I played bass on a recording for one of Gwen's songs. And that was my first time playing bass. And I came up with the bass line and was like, oh, this actually sounds kind of good. So I don't know if I would consider it yet, but it's something that I think I could get good at. So yeah, bass, guitar, mandolin, percussion, some keyboard. Yeah.
And then the instruments that you own, do you name your own instruments or do you not name your instruments?
I don't, and I just got two really cool guitars. I should name them. Because I don't name them though. I guess I don't have any names for any of them, because I have a really cool old vintage Gibson electric guitar. It doesn't have a name. I had it since I was a kid, so nope, I'm lame.
And then a question that I had that I was very curious about. March 23rd, 2025, you posted about something called the post-gig celebratory bean chug.
Oh yeah.
What is that? Where did that come from?
I love beans. I will sing their praises till my dying breath. I love beans, cold beans right out of the can. Especially the Amy's yellow curry, the golden dal, lentil dal. It's so good. It's so good. I just chug it. So,
is that something that you do every...
It happens more than what's probably considered an acceptable dinner, but it's like you have a long day or a long night as an artist, and then you wake up and you don't really have time for decent meals all the time. And I don't want to go to my gig all full of beans, belching while I'm performing. So I save it for post gig. I can chug them beans and get my dinner in.
Thank you for being our guest here on the What's in Your Case podcast.
My pleasure.
Do you have anything you'd like to promote? Or you can also tell the listeners where they can find your content.
Yes, gladly. On the 9th, we're playing our first San Francisco show. So it's going to be Frankie and Gwen, but maybe with the help of Joe Meyer and Steve Wheeler. And then playing June 7th in front of Milani Optical, 7:39 p.m. And then I'm playing at Pete's Brew House again on the 13th. And then my first gig at Slew House Social in Calusa, I believe it is, June 14th. And then I head back up to Seattle the next day because I got some work to do up there. So if you ever want to know, I tend to pin photos on Facebook so you can see my gigs, just right there in the pinned things.